Let's get together to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi everyone. Hey, this is Crystal here, and I have Pontus here with me, and so is Press, and we are co-chairing the 94th FESIG meeting together. I actually have, had Michael Leahill as the first session speaker for our 94th meeting, and he did such a wonderful talk about his association with the Anunnaki and all that. So that was really good. But I had to break it up into two parts, part one and part two, because it's a bit long. Can't go over the 2-hour limit because YouTube then won't be mirrored by Odyssey. So bear with me. So we had two parts for Michael's presentation. Today is the 3rd of November. Welcome to our 94th FESIG meeting. FESIG is the platform where science meets spirituality. And having finished the first session with the two parts, now we are continuing with the second session, where our very own FESIG R&D, the second team member, John Cain, who is filling in to do a short presentation, which is relative to multi-density MerKaBa geometry and thinking outside the Dodecahedron and not just the box. So, okay, folks, once we finish with that, then do remember and pen down in the diary our 95th FESIG meeting, which will be held on the 1st of December. Okay, so if you want to write to me, it's crystal@truevisionofpeace.com, and just go to our website for all the announcements and all the materials and the links to all our speakers. Okay. Thank you very much, folks, for hanging on and staying on. The rest of you here, we had about 40 to begin with, and I think it's a bit too long, and now we dropped off to about 30. So, okay, so I want to introduce, hang on, John Cain, okay, before we move on to the session proper. Hang on a minute, John. Sorry, I have to pull up your bio. Okay, there you go. I'm going to bear with me, folks. Okay, John Cain is a plasma engineer and a Reiki master. He has 20+ years of experience and a background in mechanical and design engineering after earning a Bachelor of Engineering with honors in computer-aided engineering. He receives much of his knowledge intuitively through downloads and meditation. So that's why, FESIG is a platform where science meets spirituality, and we always urge scientists, researchers, inventors, technologists to go within so that they can solve the equations, okay? So John was a research and development manager, R&D manager at the Cash Foundation. And that's how we met, Fres, Pontus and I, James, and that's how I started FESIG, really, like in 2016, 2018, thereabouts, 2017, thereabouts, yeah. So folks, John will be presenting. His presentation is relative to multi-density MerKaBa geometry and thinking outside the dodecahedron and not just the box. So over to you, John.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, Crystal, and enjoyed Michael's presentation. So hopefully this will follow in nicely with that too. So what I'll do is, if I can, I'll share screen and I'll go through presentation. I can give a lot more background. I've had ET experiences and stuff like that, but I know it's been a long night, so I'll crack on. I'll just share my
Thank you.
screen.
Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for so long.
Sorry. My signal may be a little bit sketchy, so apologies if it doesn't come through clearly. But I'll just start off with what perception and information came through to me when I was experiences. Had my life saved by dogs twice. I've been in really high speeds, so yeah, I've had a few interesting experiences as well as ET and beings and plasma ships and the like. But I'll just share some of my findings through my perception. I just wanted to give an angle on reality as well, as much as the multi-dimensional nature of the humans. So yeah, basically just going back to geometry in terms of the Star of David and the two tetrahedrons interlocked, representing our existence currently as our sort of soul signature. I see the MerKaBa as your soul signature. Yeah, so I don't know what you missed there, but it's just the geometry on the tetrahedron interlocked, creating our current soul signature. I believe this evolves like the humans through a perception of reality, your consciousness as it expands and goes into a higher dimensional form, that then your soul evolves as much as the human along with that. So just as an outline, the MerKaBa as we know it now, the Star of David, I believe the 2 points, the top and bottom, are like a 4th dimensional projection of energy onto a 3D platform, which is the other 6 points of the bases of both tetrahedrons, but the central point is the 7th. So that's where source is, where the energy starts, where the heartbeat of the physical heart creates the energy interacts and starts from that heart. So you've got the heartbeat, which then moves down to the intestines and up to the brain, and then develops the genitals and the brain. So that's the second phase, and then the MerKaBa chakras then evolve up through the physical body and down, up and down. So you've got the heart being the central point and the central point of the rainbow as well, in terms of the rainbow body. So I'll just flick through. I'll try and go through this pretty quick. So hopefully this will work. Oh, my PowerPoint's not working properly at the moment. Looking at the Egyptian times and the pyramids of Giza, for instance, being a square-based pyramid with consciousness of the octahedron, fourth dimensional conscious Egyptians or the builders of the pyramids. Basically, that's where their consciousness was, and there's a belief that the Egyptians could speak to the afterlife, so they still had communication, up into basically the ancestral line, and they saw death as a celebration of his physical body, which is like what I believe we're going through right now, where we're taking the physical body through an ascension in a global planetary ascension. So the knowledge I just want to share is on maybe getting a better perspective of that sort of knowledge. So yeah, just basically for people who aren't familiar with the platonic solids, which represent the tetrahedron representing fire or matter, as Nassim says, the tetrahedron's a perfect form for holding solid shape, solid form. Then you've got the cube, which represents earth, octahedron, like I say, the pyramids of Giza base to base, which is representing air. And then you've got the dodecahedron, ether, and the icosahedron, which is water, which, going back to what Michael's put on, water is, to me, is like the miracle element of what we perceive as it goes through all its phases of solid state, liquid into gaseous, you know, and it rises through the dimensions. Actually, the human being is water. To show if it comes through, if my bandwidth's good enough, I've got a short clip on a levitational droplet which shows the harmonics, like going through its phase of dynamics, really. So I'll just quickly show this if it comes through.
Because there's no sound, would you explain, John?
Yeah, it's basically just going through the harmonics. It's like a certain liquid that's compressed into levitation, and it just shows, like, as it goes through like the ultrasonic fields, you can see a higher harmonic, and how so it's like representing what would be your dimensional frequencies. And this explains basically how the experiment's carried out. You have a reflector, transducer, and then a droplet. And you go through this harmonic element that's showing liquid. So it shows how that's like the MerKaBa in effect. So that represent 3D frequency and then fourth dimensional frequency at a higher rate. But obviously it's only showing it in 2 dimensions in a flat. So, and then you go to a higher frequency, and that's just.
Oh, it's like a levitating cymatics.
Yeah, it's like a cymatics, but levitating. But I think you can basically get to a certain height, and it's like my belief that you can get, the human being can get to like the 8th, 9th harmonic before we can't hold physical form. You know, so the body, you'd be turning more into light than your physical representation. Just for some kind of explanation into the limits of physical reality, I would you know, want to add to that. I mean, they had some water here, and it destabilizes when it gets to a high harmonic. This is probably representing why it can't happen. It becomes non-linear in behavior when it gets to a higher frequency.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll go back to, I'll share screen. Thanks for that, Pontus. Thank you.
Please.
Okay, so that would just, yeah, it's basically showing how the harmonics shift and how you would represent, yeah, MerKaBa at a higher level, so the soul can evolve as much as the human along with it. I think the soul can be limited to its energy source within, like, our current planetary situation, where we've been kind of held down in effect in the third, well, descended into the 3rd dimension, and we're now pushing back into the golden age. So I'll just see if we can go through. Like, is that okay? You can see what, so I was going through some of my basically meditation and asking the questions myself. I was coming across quite yeah, interesting facts. Like when I looked into 3D, I was CAD designer and used to do 3D modeling. So I was interested in the 3D platonic solids. So I was looking at how these shapes were built and the calculations and the geometry behind them. And when I went on to YouTube to find out how to work out the tetrahedron height, it's actually quite a complex procedure. You go through Pythagoras, find the center, you go up and you have to calculate the angle of the equilateral triangles and all sorts. And it struck me that there must have been an easier way. So I looked at 2D shapes and realized that if you took the square root of 2, which is the distance across the square, and the flats of a hexagon being the square root of 3, it gives you the perfect height of a tetrahedron, which I found quite profound, really, that the 2D shape gave you a complex geometry for a tetrahedron in that effect. So that made me think about how the carbon molecule, the hexagon pentagon relationship in the C60 molecule builds up the carbon atom, which is the human being as a carbon entity or life biological entity. And again, taking this as being we are in a biological holographic universe, as Michael was suggesting, that seems to be a perception in a lot of the high-end scientist terms. And I was incorporating the phi ratio, looking into that for the golden ratio. If you put 6/5, which is the carbon molecule, times phi squared equals pi to a very high accuracy, which must have something to do with DNA and maybe the vortex mathematics within, linking the spiral of life and the circle, basically the pi, which I kind of see as kind of a good connection in that level. I went into the flower life and pulled out the Star of David and the hexagon, and just to confirm the calculations that we're looking at, square root of 3, and equilateral triangles and the importance of that. And then I went on to start modeling the pentagonal pyramid with the phi ratio obviously built into the pentagon, and then I've done the height of the hexagon. So we've got like the 1.618 representation on the pentagon, and then 1.732 in the height in a ratio. And what I found was that when you find the center of equilibrium, that point where the X, Y, and Z axis is, when you do a solid model and you ask for the you find the point of 0 point of that model effectively, that solid shape. And then if you duplicate that, spin them around and lock them in at them points, it gives you this, what I class as like the higher signature of the MerKaBa for your 5D soul energy, your soul body, you know, the signature on a higher level. So basically going up in density from the tetrahedron MerKaBa up to a pentagonal type MerKaBa. So you're extending that energy signature as what you would say like an onion, or layers of energy from the core. So yeah, I was working with this geometry and was looking to maybe build something like this in a mirrored glass thing, and maybe put crystals in the center and fire lasers at reflective to see whether it generated an amplified energy source, like what you would find in the pyramids of the Giza when you're in the king's chamber, effectively, if you found the 0 point. So I was looking into downwinter stuff and Nassim Haramein, some of the information in the tetrahedral stuff and plasma. And basically, while I was working on this model, in 2018, the couple of days after this crop circle came up, which I found interesting because, like I say, the cymatics, the crop circles are represented in a 3D, you have to read them in a 3D model effectively. And this to me was showing the positive, negative of the pentagonal pyramid, up and down, one being minus, which is like the U shapes in between, and then the petals being the positive, and the 5 points on the outside being like external energy centers that may be part of your field that are be around you if you're a human. I've had experiences where I've sensed danger behind me without even hearing or seeing it. I've had experiences of slowing time down and different things in throughout my life really, but this all started coming to mind as being pretty profound, especially when this picture is taken next to a cube which is showing like a anti-clockwise spiral in it, which I'll put some relevance into it, and like equal signs going to 5D. It's like kind of, I find it interesting where they put the crop circles in relation to other things as well, not just purely the crop circles. I've got books on crop circles as well, which I've gained some data and knowledge of to try and understand the meaning and the positioning, which I've got a great slide near the end that shows what I mean. So I'll keep flicking through, conscious of how late we're getting. So off that, I built this dynamic geometry, which I think is a vortex math of that crop circle, just to show potentially what the 5D energy signature is off this sort of. I've been looking to maybe build something like this with a spinning, kind of like blades, which these may capture the higher density, the gravitational field passing through us, for instance. Whereas I class wind, the octahedron being 4D, so wind passing across the surface of the planet can be captured by a windmill, which we're converting into 3D energy, whereas this is more a vertical sort of windmill, effectively, that may pick up the gravitational signature as it's passing through us. But also it will resonate and amplify anything that's within it, like the pyramids of Giza, for instance, that seem to amplify being attached to the planet. So as the planet goes through a higher frequency shift, if we're going to 5D, this is what I believe that the pyramids would be built to mimic 5D Earth vibration. Yeah. And what I found when I was doing this model, which would not happen if the height of this pyramid was any different, if it was slightly higher, slightly shorter, you would get a different position of the central point, the 0 point of the actual pyramid. But when I locked these two in together and I started looking at the geometry in 2D, it creates a perfect equilateral triangle in 3 points. I don't know if you can see that, where I've put the 60-degree angles between them points. So this kind of gave me some clarification that I was building geometry that could house 3D perfectly within it, which would be the balanced sort of energy signature around a 3D object, so it's, I know the dodecahedron's ether, but this is something that we can use on that level, but containing within a pyramid rather than it being a dodecahedron as a general rule of the ether. So we could house, like, for instance, the Adams motor, I would imagine, would run more efficient if we had it in one of these pyramids or in this sort of structure. It might amplify the energy that it can create. The other point off that, when you take each of those node points on the edges of the geometry, it then creates this model, which to me is an expanded icosahedron, and maybe represents when it's in its gas state, or when it's gone into precipitation. So it's gone from liquid into gas. So that might be its signature on a higher level, because it's basically expanded the top and bottom energy signature to create it as a gas. So the icosahedrons obviously then points lower down, which we'll go into in a little while. This is just representing the pentagon, where it shows the formula on the pentagon, and you get the like U shape. That's what's represented in that crop circle. If I flick back to that, but I won't do right now, but it was the negative. I class that as being the negative point of the pentagon in that respect. And then we've got obviously the triangle and the Star of David built in Tesla knowledge. And basically, while I was doing all this research, I started looking at obviously nature for some of the answers when I was coming out of meditation. And I came across this thinking, yeah, it shows the triangle within the center, and then you've got the pentagonal energy fields around, and then you've got the finials that are all like ultraviolet, which is picking up ultraviolet light. And then the decagon sort of signature around the outside, like the DNA of the flower. So that's just to kind of link all that in, and touching on what Michael was on about with the cymatics before, all the piano notes going into the different signatures, and they're three-dimensional cymatic patterns of each each note, each piano note, basically. Further investigation. But you go through the different pentagons, hexagons, octagons. There's no 7-pointed star in there, but I understand that that can obviously, there must be like what Michael's found as different frequencies that give you a different geometry. And I've kind of locked my screen up because I've zoomed in. Can you see that zoomed in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll just stop share and reshare, because I can't. I zoomed in on my screen, but it's
That's
not
okay, we
working.
can see it.
Yeah, no problem. I just can't seem to move on to my next slide. Hold on. Won't be a second. I'll stop sharing and reshare. Okay, won't be a second. It's just taking its time. Won't be a minute. Right. You see that okay? I've moved on to the next slide. So yeah, that's just the crop circle again, just showing one that was done, which is showing the pentagon stars, stars within stars, is like basically showing like a infinity symbol in cymatics. But yeah, I've not worked much with the decoding of that one as yet, but I was going to look into more on that one. Just 1 minute, it's not moving on again. Apologies if my signal's in and out as well. I'm trying to flick on now, but it's waiting. Hold on. Sorry, it seems to be just stuck at the minute. I'll move on to the next slide. But yeah, it's interesting to see that a lot of the pentagonal things represent like Star Trek symbol, for instance, as well. The triangle with a cutout at the bottom. And talking about like what I've mentioned about thinking outside of the box, like interesting to see that the cube, the Borg cube, they wanted to keep us within the box, and it's similar with the Jesuit cube and the thing. They don't want us to evolve beyond the Star of David. Effectively, that's what my perception is as well. Yeah, this is trying to show more of a thinking outside of the, not just the box, but the dodecahedron, because the ether's got to come from somewhere, and there's a higher form of energy on all levels. So I'm trying to move us beyond even where, I don't know, where Tesla's been thinking as well, which I'll go into once. I can't seem to move my PowerPoint presentation on. 1 minute. Oh, there we go. Right. So that's, yeah, the 3D MerKaBa. I did model that. I've modeled that as well. Or the Star of David. And then this is just showing the geometry to scale of what I've created over the top. So I kind of put that to, like, the physical planet would have the Star of David energy center to give you yeah, physical matter on a planetary base frequency scale. And then as you go up the octaves, you'll then create like the atmosphere and the electromagnetic field. And I think this is the sort of signature that gives you that actual energy body. That's it in solid form, just to show that. Yeah, go back to the onto basically the tetrahedron and the 64 tetrahedron position. As Damwinter says, I think there's 7 muscles. And basically, this represents like the yeah, the cone and the torus, how the DNA unpacks and goes through the speed of light when it gets to the point of a cone, and then comes out the other side. So it's like the flashing of reality, the nanoseconds of as we flash in and out of reality constantly as biological beings in a holographic universe. Yeah, I'll touch on what Tesla was, the 369 nanogon emblem symbol there, the shape. And I'm interested to see what the representation of past, present, and future is. And this is like all, yeah, soul ascension knowledge really for building up what Tesla started effectively. Yeah, I'm going through the interesting on this. I want to talk a little bit on numerology, but the 1, 2, 4, 8, it should then go 16, 32, and then 64, and that's when you start your heartbeat again. So that's your heart beating effectively, which creates the 369 infinite energy source that we emit from our heart center. And that's just putting that into numerology. So 1 and 6 equals 7, 32 equals 5, and 64 equals 1 with a 0, obviously 10. So it's a restart of that sequence. Linking this to the ancient solfeggio scale, where you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are frequencies. Yeah, 432. Frequency, like I say, is a miracle number. It adds up to 9, which is always yeah, every angle within the pentagon adds up to 9 as well. That's what is pretty unique within the pentagonal shape. but I'm picking up lights, which is the pink heart. The green is the rainbow body of the human, of 7 chakra. But I'm trying to represent the higher heart, which is then opening up to your soul chakra, which you would have 13 main ones within the physical body. As like your gifts, your well of dreams, your galactic male and female on the top of your crown, rather than it being a single crown, so you can balance your masculine, feminine thought process, which is what Greg Braden talks about, where you balance your brain hemispheres to give you a true thought through linear and creative ability. And then you use your emotion from your root and your thought to then project from your heart. So you bring them to your heart, and then that's how to manifest truly within the reality which been kept from us, really. That's the the correct way of praying, as they say. So yeah, that touches on some of the frequencies. And what I found was that in your 3 body, you've only got a range between 0 and 999 hertz in frequency. So what I was thinking was, you've got and what I found was interesting in numerology, again, when you figure out the number of hertz between each solfeggio scale, it always comes out to 3, the power of 3, and each one's got 369 built within it when you add the numbers up. So it all links into the knowledge that we already know. But I was looking at how you then create a 4th, 5th, 6D solfeggio scale effectively. So I just used numerology and started again with the 9 on, for instance, on 963, and then that gave me a new numerology number, so I could then work out which numbers come first in 4D, and I'll come out with 741, for instance. So this is a new signature of the energy, the spiral energy, and I put it back onto the nanogon. So I start with 1 at 741, and then it jumps to 528, 396. So it goes round in an anti-clockwise direction around that frequency range. And then I did that again with the 5D. So when you go into this range, you're into obviously the tens of thousands of hertz, which I found interesting that quartz crystal vibrates at 32,768 hertz, which is 2 to the power of 15, I think, which is why they use it in watches for time, because it's the only crystal that can break down to 1 second perfectly because of its frequency. But what I class crystals as 5D objects. They've got the energy of 5D contained within a solid object, which is why they're infinite piezoelectric within them, because of how densely packed they are. So that's talking of carbon to crystalline in terms of how the perception of where the human body's going to maybe go to a more silicon crystalline base, so we can maybe emit our higher energy signature and tap into our spiritual gifts at the same time. And when I put that signature back into that, it's a mirror of the 4D energy, but in a clockwise direction on that scale. So when we did all the numerology within that, and then moving on from that, this is where there's a dodecahedron at the center of this model, and then I put on the pyramids, the pentagonal pyramid that you saw at the beginning, the model. I've then overlaid on all the 12 surfaces on the external side of that dodecahedron, which then gives you this sort of model, which is like an expanded icosahedron effectively. So you're going back to water on a higher form, basically, because I believe water contains obviously the elements of fire within it, and obviously the ether is then re-wrapped around the outside, or you go to a higher form of energy above this signature. So I went on to the 6-dimensional figures, and that came out with the 369 in a different sequence, but obviously giving, just an information of lenses at a higher range of perception, but using the Solfeggio scale to keep it in alignment with our current existence. I've kind of gone into the 8D MerKaBa, just keeping the sequence because church spires forms, which made me think that obviously they probably came from Tartarian technology, architecture, which they had a good understanding of how to tap into, and basically there were never crosses on the top of churches as we see them. I think there were aerials that were there to pick up like electrical energy in the environment, as I think Tesla had already done with his car that ran on from an aerial in the air. I put that overlay in scale again to the 3D, the tetrahedron MerKaBa, the Star of David, and then the 5D geometry, and then the eighth dimensional or eighth density geometry. And then this cropped up as a crop circle, a new signature, and I took this as a high heart cymatic, and could give technology with this could be a free energy device if it's decoded correctly, but I couldn't get over that it's been put in a heart-shaped sort of a landscape with a little heart-shaped forest with the pattern right, the crop circle right above it. So that to me represents the high heart frequency that I was talking about earlier, the 5 to 8 frequency heart, the pink heart, rather than the 432 green, which is that's perfectly in alignment with how we're going to evolve. Like I said, it's got the physical heart frequency at 432, obviously creates the green color at the center of the rainbow. But when that's physical, that's the physicality, but I'm talking about the high heart, which is the secondary soul signature, your pink heart, which I think would tap into your crown and root to create the pink rather than a whole rainbow. So it's like kind of evolving up, but also going back to like the is it the Taoist or whatever, where they talk about the 3 energy centers, the Dantian and the like. So it links in partially with that as well. And interesting, it's octagonal. And then just wanted to show a Tartarian star fall, which these are all over the world, which seem to generate their own energy, and they can draw in natural gases underneath. There's loads in the Ukraine, I believe. Well, this is, eco villages and monetary, and I would imagine living in a place like this is harmonious. I believe there's one around Berlin, which is why they put the wall in to deharmonize the star fort that's basically around the whole of Berlin. And another one that's a good example is the Statue of Liberty. The base of that is a star fort, a cymatic. So yeah, and somebody told me that I don't know if there's anyone from Germany here, but the animals in the zoo of Berlin are really happy. They're like, they seem to be living in like a harmonious field of G. So, and touching a little bit on what Michael was on about before with the arc representing the feminine, it's like the dome represents the feminine, like on dome churches where you get that, and then the pyramids represent the masculine, the pointy, it's obviously the curves and the points. So that's just touching on that, and that basically brings me to the end of, or I can expand in all areas on that. I've got quite a bit of knowledge in, but I didn't want to, obviously, we're 11:30 here in the UK. So I'll end on that note, everyone, and thanks for your your time to go through that. I hope it's been of interest to you.
Thank you, John. That is superb. Thank you. You really got it. I mean, the first theme was learning the stuffs that you were presenting. The rest was teaching the stuffs in the first theme, and I'm really, really so happy to see you presenting this in the second theme. So that's why I said, you know, it's best that you do this as a presentation in the public meeting as well. And there you are. Well done. You really have a very all-round understanding of the.
Thank you. Thanks.
So over to you, Fres.
Well, as I say, I'm not worthy. all I did was take the dodecahedron and implode it, you know, and you've exploded the next layers up, the next 4 layers up, and it's like, oh, I was just barely getting my head around this one and moving to that one. So it's like, thank you. Well done.
Oh wow, no, that's cool, Fraz, because I know. Yeah, that's amazing, because that's like the implosion part is paramount. So I mean, I didn't know you'd done that, so that's amazing. Cool.
Yeah, I'm sure Pontus is very proud to have you with us in the second team, eh, Pontus?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
That
I'm
water
super
video
excited.
didn't need sound.
No.
Yeah, that
Say
they
that
kinda looked
again.
like they wanted to be snowflakes. They were like trying.
A snowflake, yeah.
That's good. That Berlin
powerful.
Zoo footage, they removed that like so many times, and there's no trace of it on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, is there any question? Q&A session? I know it's very late and everyone's like quiet because I think people are getting sleepy. So sorry to push you right back to this late time. Yeah, but anyway, it was so interesting to hear what Michael has to say, right? I didn't have the heart to interrupt him. Okay, there you go, Fres. Yeah.
Yeah, what I really appreciate what you did, John, was the shadows from your drawings in the 2-dimensional on the side. And the one thing I was trying to get with the other group is just, we have a lot of these schematics laying around from ancient times to recent times in these designs. They're not just 2 dimensions. They evolve into 3 dimension, into 4 dimension, and now you showed the 5, 6, 7th dimensions on it. So really appreciate what you've done.
Yeah, it's so beautifully put together, John. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. No, thank you. You're welcome. It's good to share.
Thank you. Anybody else? Graham, have you got anything for John?
No, it's very nice presentation though, John. Thank you. Very good.
John is in the UK as well. John, oh, sorry, where are you from? Is Ipswich? No.
From northwest, Preston in the UK.
Preston, that's right. Yeah, northwest. Yeah, you did tell me. Sorry.
I'm from Worthington myself.
Graham's in the south. I'm in London. Yeah. I'm sure someday
we'll have to get together.
Right. Is there any questions for John? Okay, I think we wrap it up. It's late. Yeah. There have been no other business. Now the 94th FESIG meeting is adjourned to the 95th, which will be held on the 1st of December, folks. Okay, do come back and join us. They're very interesting speakers. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. Thank you for staying up so late. I can stop recording now.
Thank you.